What about your best deal?
I was gonna say, and then the best deal is the one that I mentioned earlier. I mean, I've had some pretty cool deals. Like I did a flip once where we couldn't completely agree on price, and the guy agreed to 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments till I finished flipping the house.
Oh, wow.
So I paid $693 in property taxes, renovated the whole house, and then when I sold it, I paid him the 38 grand out of the sale. So that was really cool.
I like that strategy actually a lot.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I can't meet your number unless we do this. And he's like, I want out. I'm like, okay. Also went way over budget on it, but we survived it. So it was a house with a fire and, you know, new things. But that one actually turned out really good. Best before and after photos, if anything I ever did. The best deal was that 10 unit. You know, I was into it for less than $11,000, $212,500 purchase price, and it brought in $4,800. Now it was classed like F property. You know, we had a lot of issues. It was one of those properties I would say you should buy or could buy very early in real estate when you have time and no money. But I would never buy it now when I have money and no time. Yeah. And it was a good deal. You know, it did what it did. We bought it for $212,500. We sold it for $340,000 4 years to the day later. And I had refinanced at one point and used that money to buy other properties. And it cash flowed not every month, but every year that I owned it. You know, there were definitely some rough months, but it cash flowed every month. And then I mean, you know, 11 grand into whatever that is, 120, 140 is not too terrible.
Yeah. Congrats, man. That's great. All right, dude, let's shift a little bit. I want to talk about personal branding and some of the internet work that you've done and making money outside of just real estate. So years ago, we sat down for a conversation, and somehow it came up about about the idea of starting a brand. I'm wondering, like, how did that, like, why did you decide to go that route in the first place? I know we talked about it, but why did you decide to pursue that?
Yeah,
become an internet celebrity.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I decided. I was going to be a guru, and Brandon said so. I asked you how to write a book because when I was deployed, I had a mission log and a journal, and I was like, Navy SEALs and all these cool guys write all these books about all these things they did. Like, I have everything I need to write a book about, like what the normal people did in Afghanistan. Like we did some cool stuff, but we were not jumping out of airplanes, kicking in doors. You know, we had our moments of fun, but so I was like, I want to write this book. And someday I still will. I still have all the pieces. And so I asked you how to write a book. You were like, write 1,000 words a day. I was like, okay, where? You're like, start a blog, dude. I was like, okay. What the heck do I write about? And you were like, you're in the military, you do real estate. There's a lot of people who do that, but nobody really talks about it. And so I was like, okay, fine. So I asked Doug, told me about this like 5 video series from Pat Flynn on like how to start a blog, or maybe it was you who brought it up. And between you and Doug Nordman, within like the first month or two, I was like blog, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and then like a year later started the podcast. I went to FinCon. I mean, at the time, I didn't even come up with the name of the website. I had like 10 ideas. I put them out on Facebook. Everybody said they were terrible. And then a buddy of mine was like, who's not even in the military, was like, how about this? That's really catchy. And so I just started writing. And what happened is I would write about things like the VA loan, like things I was learning or doing. And people would ask questions. I'd be like, oh, I got the same question 3 times. Let me go learn a lot about that and write about that and answer these questions. That way, when more people ask me this, I can just point them to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that went on for probably 2 years. I had 4,000 or 5,000 people in a Facebook group. It was good. And then one day the Facebook group went from like 100 people a week to 100 a day, 200 a day, 300 a day. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What is this? And it was kind of then that it clicked, like, this isn't a hobby. Like, I'd been in the red, you know, I mean, I was paying to do that for the first 2 years because I was just trying to learn and I was just trying to help people. And then one day I was like, oh shoot, this is a business. Yeah. I should probably treat it that way. And so a lot's changed over the last 6 years, 7 years, 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. What value have you gotten besides money? What value do you get out of blogging and having an online brand?
It's incredibly fulfilling. The knowledge that you can, I mean, you know, I joke all the time. It's like, well, what if you made $10,000 in real estate, or you made $10,000 helping other people make $10,000? Like, in one of those, like, they're going to be eternally grateful, great people. Like, I don't know about you, but I've not yet had a tenant come to me and thank me for letting them pay rent. So it's a little bit different, right? And so it's so fulfilling to watch people that you've interacted with take your advice or even just tweak something a little bit, and then, you know, they have a house that is going to pay for their living expenses, or just, you know, whatever the case may be. Maybe they use the VA loan with a lender that's better and they save $1,000 on fees, even little things like that. So it's super fulfilling, but it's just, it's just really cool to be a part of a community like that. Like they're all, not all, but mostly like service members and vets. It's close knit, and there's just getting out of the military is rough. You lose your purpose, you lose your identity, you lose a lot. And I think that's what really hurts vets when they make that transition. And it wasn't easy transitioning, even with being like financially free and having a community, but it was a lot easier than it could have been because I had people to turn to. So that was pretty cool.
Speaking of getting out of the military, how do we address and solve this problem of military veteran suicide in America? Like, how do we fix that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually have a really good blog post that I wrote on it once that you could go read at this URL. Actually, Alex wrote a piece on it, I believe. I sent it to him at one point. I can't remember if you.
Oh, is this the 22 push-up thing?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, we were pretty rude about that. I was.
I was worried that this would bomb. So there's all these, like 22 a day, and they mean well. They really do. I don't think that drawing attention is the solution. I think. Are you familiar with Contagion Effect? Mm-hmm. So it's like the idea that I think Malcolm Gladwell talks about it in Blink, maybe. It's the idea that like if you see something and it's normalized, you're more likely to do it. So like if somebody kills himself and everybody publicizes it, or like a mass shooting and it's publicized, it becomes almost acceptable. So it's the theory for why when Lincoln Parks, he passed away, that a year to the day later, there was another, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but
Chris Cornell, and how dare you?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I knew. I'm sorry. I should never bring up music around Alex. But it was a year to the day later, and the only thing anyone can come up with is that it was the relation. So my kind of theory is go outside and find other people to hang out with, other vets or whatever, because it's like if you publicize this idea that it's like a normal out, it becomes something that's acceptable in your own head, and it becomes an option when you're at the low of lows. Everybody goes through low times, but for some reason for vets, it seems to be like an option, which is unfortunate. And so my thought process is really just go outside, get around other vets, find something that you enjoy and lean into it. I mean, it's not an easy problem to solve. I don't have the answers, but when I'm having a crappy day, I call a friend and I go for a walk out in the sun. So,
yeah, it's good advice, man. Let's go back a little bit to the online business. There's a lot of people listening to the show who are real estate investors, but they're also thinking, there's not a lot of cash flow right now in real estate, so maybe I need to do some kind of online business. So what have you said, what do you believe is like the key to success in making money on the internet?
Consistency. I think it's as simple as starting to do something and then not stopping until it works. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's the whole, like, whether you pivot or you quit, like there's a time to call it. Like there are things that are just not going to work, but not until you've put in a significant amount of time and you're like, what in the world? Like I didn't see any growth that first year, and I didn't make $1 until second year, and I wasn't profitable until the third year. I was paying to build this. Yeah. So I always joke there's like this BMW phase, like the below minimum wage or whatever. I don't know if that's, I don't know where I first heard that, but that's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
There's always that point in time with anything and everything that you start where you're like, I hope this works. I'm not getting paid, And if you can't make it through that, I mean, it's the same reason for why 95% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20.
Yeah.
They just quit.
Yeah.
And they all could be big if they just didn't quit.
Yeah, you give me, you've given me a lot of shout outs for getting you into this internet marketing thing because I mentioned it to you. But the funny thing is, I mentioned it to everybody. Like hundreds of people I probably told, yeah, you should start a blog. You're the only one I think that actually did it. Like, I don't think anybody else is actually, that I can think of, was like, took my advice and then went out and did it. Maybe Investor Girl Brit, but I think she was already starting. She already had her Instagram going.
I'm too dumb to quit.
Yeah, you're too dumb. It's like, yeah, there's something to, you just do it for a long period of time. And I love that BMW phase. I'd love to harp on that a minute longer, because there's this feeling that people get in business of like, I'm going to charge what I'm worth. And if I'm not getting what I'm worth, then therefore I'm not going to do that action. So like I put in 100 hours of work and I bought one rental property that makes me $100 a month. I'm worth way more than that. And so then they quit. Or I've been doing a blog for a year now and I'm making 12 cents a day from Google. Like, I'm not going to continue with this. I recently heard, I think it was Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom podcast. He mentions like that's the guy that's like gets every big celebrity there is now. He gets on his show, massive YouTube, massive whatever.
Great videos.
He's the best when it comes to video quality. I mean, we're chasing his coattails right now, trying to figure out how he does what he does. And he said something that just blew my mind. I think he said like he had 400 episodes before he crossed 1 million like subscribers on YouTube. And I'm like, 400 episodes of his show. And again, this is like the guy, like the GOAT of podcasting right now. Took 400 episodes. And that's like a decade of work.
Overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. Overnight success. Now, I first heard about Chris Williamson like a year ago. And so it would appear he came out of nowhere until he's like, no, I did 400 episodes. And maybe people with this show, like this show has done well from day one. That's because of 9 years, never missing a single episode at Bigger Pockets. Yep. And then the last 3 years doing 2 episodes a week, sometimes 3. It's like you put in your work, but nobody sees that, especially in that BMW phase.
That's it. I think that's why service members do so well as entrepreneurs. I always joke about this, but I'm like, we're so used to doing like a 24-hour shift, standing duty, watching the paint dry for no extra pay.
Yeah.
Or show up at the armory at 3 a.m. when you could be there at 7, but you got told to be there at 3, so you're going to sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're used to putting in a whole bunch of unnecessary or maybe not unnecessary, but extra hours with no pay. So then when it comes time to do it for yourself, it's like, at least this is for me. Like, it doesn't bother me. And if you're in the military, like, you've got all the benefits, so you can start something you've got very low risk when you've got a great job that you know you're not going to lose unless you like get a DUI to go out and take some time to build something.
Yeah. Where do you make your money online? How do you generate any kind of revenue?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. Affiliate marketing stuff, right? My 2 biggest sources of revenue right now are I do agent and lender referrals through the Facebook group. So service members move a lot. They always ask for introductions, and I don't blast it all over the place or market it or anything. I just kind of if they come to me and it's on the website, I'll make an introduction to an agent or a lender that I know and at least think is not going to hose you as far as oh, you should use this other thing, and I don't know what to do. So we try to help vets get in place with actual quality real estate professionals. And the I think now largest is the paid community we have within the group. So I have a mastermind group that everything I do is open to everybody, right? Like the group is 80-90% of what we talk about is applicable to non-service members too. But that one group, we won't even let spouses in. It is service member and vet only. My own business partner in one of the hotel I own is a military spouse, and I asked the group once, like, hey, can this guy join? He brings a ton of value. And they were like, unanimously, no, we only want. And so it's a super tight-knit group of, for lack of a better word, killers, and we love it. So that's probably the most gross revenue, but it's also probably the largest expense. So it's a great time. It's the most fulfilling thing we do.
What did you guys meet in person, or only on digital, or a little of both?
Yeah, we do 3 calls a week virtually, and then so like 1 or 2 might have a guest speaker or member, and then one's just like office hours. I do ask me any things, and then I split them into groups like accountability squads, and then we did a live event in Missouri 2 years ago, in Tampa this past year, and then this year we're doing one in Keystone in the winter and one in San Diego in the fall. So we're growing into 2 or 3 a year.
And what's the long-term plan there? What do you see that over the next few years?
We're just gonna blow it up, I think. So I'm hiring a community manager, client success. I'm finally starting to hire people instead of just thinking like, oh, what if I do the cheapest way possible to try to. So hiring some talent. Growing the goal is to help 10,000 service members and vets achieve financial freedom. So
love it.
We'll see how that morphs over time, but it's a great group of people.